So I'm going to talk about something really quickly. And about this thing about saying that hell and heaven is a state of mind. Hell and heaven, the way the Bible states, I don't really get into that. Because that is from a particular entity that wants people to follow him or that particular energy. So I don't get into the way it's described in the Bible, but the way people say it just in general is heaven and hell is a state of mind. Okay, I can say in a way that's true, but in a way it's not true, and let me explain. We've been on a negative timelines, okay? Like, there's been like several resets, and every time they do a reset, there was a reset in 2021 where there was probably a disaster where we all died, but they reset the time where we keep going. I said the other day, what was it? Maybe a couple of days ago, I said I woke up that rising, and that was when I was doing my thing, getting rid of deception. And I just happened to see a vision of like these New Year's, those New Year's Day balloons or New Year's Eve balloons. Okay, you celebrate New Year's, really starting New Year's Eve. I saw those balloons, you know how they have the years, the balloons blown up in a particular year it is. But I saw some gold balloons. I saw a vision of gold balloons that said 2021. I said, oh my God. I just saw a video a few days ago, which I put in the title with Miss Quartita Dean, talking about how stuff is looping around, the same stuff that she dealt with in 2021, the same scenario, the same exact words people are saying, and people said they saw Takeoff spotted at the Super Bowl. It was something viral video. I don't keep up with that stuff because I barely knew about Takeoff. But just saying, I'm pretty sure that she is not lying about that. But anyway, I said, wow, this lady, she's telling the truth. It was a reset. Something happened on 2021, which I think people thought it was supposed to be some kind of disaster. I want to say something about this doomsday prepping and stuff. And with those underground bunkers before, I don't know if it could, if those underground bunkers were meant for what was going to happen in 2021, and they built those underground bunkers for that. Because I noticed a lot of strange stuff just from hearing what others, bloggers, had to say about strange stuff happening with celebrities. They not looking the same. They not acting the same. Look like they just falling off. They retiring and all kinds of stuff, right? Something was going to happen. And it probably was a reason why they chose to go underground. That is why I never got into, like I said, I always understand having backup, overstand having backup. Seeds or whatever. Everybody can't have seeds. Everybody can't plant something because some people stay in hotels. Some people are staying in places where they can't just go somewhere and plant a garden, Or they can't put just like something in their windows. You know what I mean? Some people are not in the place where they can always do that. But I always said, those people, whatever people think they planning, these folks are already far steps ahead. They're already far ahead. So whatever people thinking they planning for that they're going to try to beat is not what they're going to beat. There was a reset in 2021. There was a reset in 2012. Probably it was complete by the year 2013 or 2014. I think it was a reset in 2012, and then it took time for it to be complete. And I think it was complete by the year 2014. It was complete. That particular reset was complete by the year 2014. So the reset was in 2021. We got to probably August or September this year to get it right. We don't have, I don't even think it's going to take, I don't think we have that long. I mean, I literally saw visions of like chains and stuff with Tethered or something like that. Like what's that movie called? Us by Jordan Peele, Us, Tethered. I see visions of chains and being tethered. now, like it's happening now. Okay? So, but now I want to get into this thing of heaven and hell. I get what people are saying heaven is a state of mind. It's about how you see things. It's how you perceive things. I get that. Sometimes some people's experiences, it ain't about no perception of shit that's really happening. If somebody been trafficked or whatever, whether it's a child or a grown person, and they being tortured every day, this ain't about no freaking state of mind. They ass is going through some shit. Okay, where they physically go through something every day. Because I go through stuff spiritually, but I can do some work on it to make it, kind of calm it down a little bit. But when you physically got to keep dealing with shit every day, somebody raping you or whatever, I don't know how you wrap your mind around it. So, but, no, let me tell you, in this case, what hell is. It's not really about a state of mind. It's not about being able to go to the spa and just go, well, I'm in peace. I live in my house. I stay with my children. I don't get in no fights, and I just have peace of mind. And that's heaven to me. The more you keep getting caught in these resets, it's getting you further and further and further and further away from your true, authentic self. It's getting you further and further and further and further away from the original divine source or original divine consciousness. And that's what hell is. I'm agree with the Bible on this one, but God, people view different ways of God, but I'm just going to say God is, in this case, could be your soul or, the consciousness, Christ consciousness. Let's say Christ consciousness, right? The more and more and more they reset, the further you get away from Christ consciousness. And when you do that, you're going further down negative timelines. Now, you might not be experiencing a lot of negativity in your personal life. So it's not about always experiencing something negative in your personal life. And that's what I've been seeing, that people want to call heaven and hell. It's a state of mind, because when you die, where your mind is where you're going to go. I get all of that. But at the same time, not really, because just because you had a peace of mind and you were at peace when you died doesn't have a lot to do with Christ consciousness. You still need to be out of Christ consciousness in order to really not come back. That's hell. You can die at peace. You can die in a peaceful mood, having a peaceful life. But if you're not up to that type of Christ consciousness of a level of overstanding, then that's still, you're still coming back to like a negative timeline. And what is a negative timeline? I don't care how peaceful you are, how great your life is. Anytime you have these type of presidents that's running you, these type of entities that's running the world, and you're under that kind of rulership, that is a negative timeline. But also that has to do with raising your consciousness as well. So that also has to do with raising your consciousness. And you want to raise your consciousness out of those type of negative timelines, because when the consciousness type of split, you don't want to be caught in those negative timelines, because it's only going to get lower and lower and lower and more negative and more negative and more negative. I said ever since I came back in this particular experience that you would call a lifetime. I think my first reset was 1986, and I thought it was Chernobyl, but I believe it was the Challenger is the one that took everybody out. I believe it was the Challenger. Could be wrong, but I believe it was the Challenger. It's a song by L-E-L-L-E. I think it's Goulding, Goulding. She's really popular. But it was a song called Anything Can Happen that came out in 2012, and she talks about the wreck of 1986. She talks about the wreck of 1986. And she said, anything could happen, anything could happen. And it talks about the wreck of 1986, and like the visuals of look like laws, there was no life. People died. And it's interesting how that video came out 2012, where there was another reset. 2012, when that video came out, or that song came out, that was another reset right there. Okay? So she's talking about the reset. People died. Everybody died. I keep seeing visions of myself inside of a school building. Like, why am I seeing this school building like the floors in the 80s? And ever since that reset, I've been heading down towards a negative timeline, because you reset and you die, but you're not really, your consciousness is not raised and aware enough to know that something happened. So you keep going down negative timelines and you're not catching up with where you should be. So in a sense, it's not even about creating a life for yourself where you can have a good life. You want to get out the negative timelines. You don't want to be in any timeline regardless of how well your life might look. You don't want to be in a timeline anytime where there's a Joe Biden or a Kamala Harris or a Donald Trump even, I don't care, or whether there's a Republican or Democrat or COVID or coronavirus. You don't want to be in a timeline where any of those kind of narratives exist. That is a negative timeline, regardless of how well your life may be. If you're in a timeline where you got to go somewhere and put on a face mask, and like I work in a nursing facility, well, not right now anymore, but I worked in a nursing facility, and anytime I work in nursing facilities, a lot of times I prefer to put my mask on with those patients, especially if I'm in a room where they have to keep their mouth open and they breathing on you. Okay, so, but other than that, walking in a doggone store somewhere, walking to get somewhere to eat, anytime you got to put on a face mask or just to be outside, that's a negative timeline, no matter how great your life might seem. That is a negative timeline. It's no time, that shouldn't even happen. So the more positive timelines will be more like the heavens say, this be more divine. You'll be getting into more divine relationships. People trying to figure out why they can't get love and stuff like that, and trying to fix themselves and wonder what's wrong with them. Let me tell you, on negative timelines where you're going further and further down to the hell, you're going further and further down to hell. You're going further and further down into the illusion. And duality, and as you continue to split and split and split, your consciousness continue to split and split and split. And people are like, why can't I find love? Because you're in a negative ass timeline where it's a bunch of doggone, a lot of people are going to be more dealing, you're looking at what you think of physical bodies, but it's a lot of negative entities that's using those physical bodies that look like people, because you're in a very negative timelines. There's no love there, and you keep going further. Got to get it right with this one, because with this one, it's hardly any coming back, because they're making people machines now. That has been my experience for the last year or so. They're making people machines now. They got people with these nanobots all over them, and pretty soon people just going to be under remote control for real. Like, it would not be no original part of yourself. Somebody else will be controlling you. Okay, this is like the last chance to have some type of being a human, or being organic. Let me say being organic. This will be your last chance to have some part of being organic. This is it. So so you want to get back on the more positive timeline. So like, realize where the resets happen and what do you remember, and then keep trying to go back and get back on those type of the timelines that you should be in, had you not continued to be reset, and then you weren't really awake to realize there was a reset, so that there was an actual disaster that happened, and that you don't know. You want to wait to it, so you continue to go down to a negative time. You get further and further and further away from your authentic self and living a lie. That's negative timelines. You get further and further away from your authentic self, Christ consciousness. You know? So yeah. But that's basically it. You know, that's that heaven and hell. That's what I was saying, what the Bible was saying. Separation from God is death, right? And the Bible says death is separation from God. That is death, separation from your true authentic self, from Christ consciousness is death. And we are literally, for the most part, dead. Okay, for some of us, there have been so many resets that we got to get ourselves back on track. It's like we've been derailed for so doggone long. There was a reset in 2012. There was a reset in 2021 for those who might have been born in 2000 or the late 90s. But in my current experience of life, my first reset was 1986. But in my other life span, which I might have been born in the 50s during that time, There was still might have been recess though. Okay, there still might have been recess. I just don't know when. Okay, but yeah. But that's it. Is that heaven really is getting back to the organic consciousness. That is like the real heaven, getting back to Christ consciousness, getting back to organic consciousness, the divine source, whatever you want to call it, getting back to that. I don't care, I get to have people have their different beliefs. Well, and I don't want to get on different beliefs, but listen, let me say this, which is 100% fact. I don't care what you might believe in or how well you think your life is. If you have a Joe Biden in your timeline, or a Kamala Harris, or a Bill Gates, or all these people, if you have those entities that exist along your timelines, where they are kind of ruling things, or well, they're not the ones. They're like doing a job, They're doing a job, but still, you have some very negative entities that's really. If you're in that kind of timeline, that is a negative timeline, regardless of how peaceful your life may seem. They should not be in your timeline when they are ruling things, because if you're in a timeline, regardless of how peaceful you feel like you are, but those type of entities are still kind of running things, that is a negative timeline. Because you know why? Because they are a lie. That's why they're a lie. They're not real. And so when you get to your organic truth, your highest truth, those, they don't exist anymore. They eventually, something happens to them where they go away, or you might hear stories, where they just won't be around anymore, because they are a lie. They're a lie. All this other stuff won't exist anymore. You won't have a coronavirus in your highest truth. Okay? So you get back on those timelines where you should have been prior to all those resets. And now some people are like planters or whatever, and so some people not really real anyway. We are in a supercomputer. But anyway, that's it, and I'll talk later.